Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
That's right, people. It's Friday night, and I'm looking at my 401k, and things are looking good. After a pretty tough week, admittedly, I'm a little heavy on tech as far as my portfolio, especially AI. But boy, what a comeback today. And for the first time in the history of this republic, we have a Dow Jones at 50,000 plus. This is big. That's huge. Because remember what they all said back on April 2nd of 2025. The Trump tariff war will tear down the economy. We will have a global recession, the likes of which we have not seen since 1929 or at least 2008. Stock market will crash, wages will fall, unemployment will go up. It'll be dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. To quote Ghostbusters, which I recently rewatched again, by the way, and it is incredible. 1984, I believe that was the summer of, and I have that as a top 5 movie. Sorry, it's that good. The writing is that good. Ivan Reitman, but more importantly, Harold Ramis, the late Harold Ramis, unfortunately, who died at only 69 of some sort of weird disease. He was the catalyst there and fed 94% of the great lines from that movie to Bill Murray, who delivered it with perfection. No question. I could go through a line around a guy named Richard Peck, but I can't do that right now because, again, the FCC may be listening, and I just can't do that. Anyway, the point is, people, that we are seeing an economy under Trump that is unstoppable at this point. Because, again, we have wages way up. We have inflation at 2.5%, core inflation. You say, well, that's still going up. Well, yeah. Would you prefer 9% under the auto pen? Because I wouldn't. You have gas prices in many parts of the country well below $2. In some places, like Utah, you can get gas for below $1.50 per gallon. Drill, baby, drill. We have wars that are essentially coming to ends, right? When was the last time you saw a big story in Gaza and Hamas and some sort of horrible thing happening there? It's not perfect, but we have relative peace in the Gaza Strip. And that's all because of President Trump. And let's face it, Jared Kushner, who many people mocked. He's a publisher. What does he know? Oh, it's just nepotism. Well, Abraham Accords. Now what we're seeing here in terms of Hamas and Israel. And again, many people thought it couldn't be done there. Now, Ukraine and Russia is the final step. But I'm sorry, when was the last time you saw any news report on the war between Ukraine and Russia that really caught your attention? This is the stalemate to end all stalemates on the Eastern Front in Ukraine. They're not getting the Kyiv. Russia will bomb Kyiv once in a while, which is horrible. It's much like London in World War II, it feels like sometimes. But in the end, I don't see the Putin endgame here. You're not going to win this thing. Your military is inept, and you're stuck. So I guess you could take a deal where you get some land back that you think is yours, and then Ukraine gets all these assurances from the U.S., which they've already received, as far as economic assurances, as far as the whole minerals and that whole deal that could happen, which actually was signed between Zelensky and Trump. You go through all these things and you're like, all right, good things can happen there. Now, all of that said, we're at 50,000 on the Dow, and yet Democrats still are focusing, let's say, on the wrong things. All right. Let's start with Exhibit A. Zoran Mamdani here in New York. What does he do today? 17 people have died from hypothermia in New York over the past 10 days. We are in a cold spell like we have not seen in this city for 65 years. I've had snow. There was a snowstorm about 17 days ago. Nothing has melted. You know why? Because every night it's around zero, and every day it doesn't get above freezing. So this is how it works. All right. It's like we live in Minneapolis without the insanity. Well, I guess some insanity, because 17 people died on the streets of New York who should have been in homeless shelters and not dying of hypothermia. Yet, Mamdani, well, what does he announce today? That he's going to change his policy, that he's going to start saving lives, because there is a cold front coming through here as we speak, that by tomorrow, you're going to have temperatures well below zero as far as wind chill and real feel. More people are going to die. But here's what Mamdani wants, which is profoundly horrible. As far as I can't even get my head around this, he wants to make sure that ICE has no ability in any way, shape, or form to do their jobs. And he's going to stop ICE at every possible moment. This is cut number 10. Go.
The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina.
What?
Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us,
As
for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers.
Where the hell am I, Fallujah? What the heck? What? 17 people die in New York. Bus fares continue to go up. There's garbage and snow everywhere on every street in Manhattan. No one can get around. And this guy's quoting the Quran and talking about how, I guess, he's going to protect illegal criminals in the country, in this city. Oh, my goodness gracious. My hair hurts again. And if you voted for this person, and I guess that's more than half of New York, got 51% of the vote. I know the turnout wasn't very high, but at the same time, if you voted for this guy and you're listening right now, how do you possibly justify this? I'm here to protect illegals from ICE. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to quote the Quran, which is fine. Religious freedom, First Amendment, I guess. But again, priorities, man. My priorities, my dude. People are going to die in the street over this weekend, and you don't care. You care more about those who are in this country illegally, who have committed crimes, than actual citizens, including veterans, who could die on the street in Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, Queens this weekend. Meanwhile, if you want to hear what the average Mamdani supporter wants to make illegal, well, where do you get a load of this clip? Because apparently, if Zoran raises taxes on, I don't know, everybody, especially small businesses and even millionaires and billionaires who create jobs, by the way, well, this guy in this video says it should be illegal. If you own a business in New York and you want to move to Florida, where taxes are infinitely lower, or Tennessee, or Texas, or South Carolina, this guy says, you know what? Those people should be arrested for wanting to leave. You know, freedom. Cut number 11, go.
What do you say to this folks who say, well, if you tax millionaires, they're going to leave the city, and the top 1% pays 40% of the taxes in the city, so what happens if they leave? What's your response?
Well, that's what I would say. It's like we should take their business, and we run it like for like the city ourselves.
So if they take their business to Florida, you feel like you can make it, keep it here?
I mean, they can't leave the building. They can't like just bring their whole entire workforce to Florida, right?
No.
They can't bring all of like the resources that they have to like build the business here to Florida.
Please, God,
right?
stop.
That's a whole thing. And that's where you would even say, like, if we're building a real movement, right, to, like, stop that, we'd also, like, make it illegal for them to, like, actually, like, leave, right? We would fine them to hell if they're going to try to, like, abandon their property here, right? Because clearly people do need to work, right? People do need to, like, you know, make a living, so.
Do stupid people get to a point in life where they know they're stupid? Do you want to make it illegal? As a business owner who put blood and guts into opening a business, who risked everything in terms of credit, all the loans you have to get, everything you have to do to open your own business and be an entrepreneur, and you're saying that, hey, if I think the taxes are too high, maybe I want to get out of here, that you're this moron says that we should be able to then take your business, or B, fine you out the wazoo for wanting to leave, or B, make it illegal. C, who cares what the options are? They're all bad. Oh, that's so wrong on so many levels. And again, this is what people wanted in New York City. Sticking with this whole theme with Zohran Mamdani. So I played on the show last night. There is a video of a man who was told 9 times. I don't remember Ferris being absent for 9 times. 9 times, yes, a quote from the 1986 movie Ferris Bueller, where he was absent 9 times, even though he was faking it the entire time. The principal's trying to relate us on to Ferris's mother. And the way he says 9 times is a classic if you know 80s movies. Trust me, anybody from the 80s who knows their stuff, mainly guys, not so much the gals, it's not misogyny, it's just a guy thing to know movie quotes. When you say 9 times, they know that is Ferris Bueller, believe me. Anyway, this cop told this maniac who he was trying to arrest, he had a warrant for his arrest, put down the knife when he enters his apartment. And 9 times after being told this, the guy still comes charging forward with a knife, trying to kill the cop. So the cop shoots him, because that's what you do, just like what we saw, what happened in Minnesota when somebody rams a truck into you, or when an armed man comes at you as far as ICE and doesn't tell you he's armed until, well, unfortunately, way after the fact. And the point is that here is Zohran Mamdani, after he is asked, finally, New York press, ask him send me a tough question. This is a 101 question. Hey, you saw that video of the man charging a police officer with a knife. Have you changed your mind as far as visiting the guy who got shot in the hospital as if he's the victim and not praising the police officer? And here is Zohran's response, and it tells you everything. Cut number 15, go.
In meeting with the family, in visiting Jabez at the hospital, and in viewing this footage, it is clear to me that what Jabez needs is mental health treatment, not criminal prosecution.
Oh, so if I charge NYPD with a knife and I'm told to drop it 9 times, I can get away with that? And then say, oh, just having a bad day, having a bad mental health day. Ah, shucks. You've got to be kidding me. Do you understand, people, what this will do to New York? You think de Blasio was fun? Just wait till Zohran Mamdani. We're already seeing it as far as being as soft on crime as the softest pillow you could possibly think of late at night. I have no words. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with more, unfortunately or fortunately, in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Well, she's back-ish. Oh, Kamala Harris. God love her. She may run again for a third time for president. You say, wait, she only ran in 2024. Oh, no. She ran in 2019. First candidate to announce. She was called the female Obama. This is somebody that will take down Trump. She is a game changer. She is a prosecutor, and she will prosecute Trump for his crimes against humanity or something. Anyway, so that was 2019, and she never got to 2020, never got to Iowa. Voters hated her. The more they heard from her, they're like, this person seems to have an authenticity problem, seems to have a what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh, I don't know. She has a likability problem. Kamala Harris is one of the worst, if not the worst, national candidate that we have ever seen. Period. Bar none. Endo story. Well, she launched her 67 campaign today, or 6-7. Now, if you have a 10-year-old like I do in fourth grade, 6-7 is a very big deal. I don't know why it's a big deal. I don't quite understand the big deal thing. Apparently, it's a part of some song that went viral, and then every fourth grader in the country does 6-7, 6-7. But if you're a dad and you do 6-7 back to them, then they call you cringe. Like, Dad, don't do that. That's, in other words, it's not your jurisdiction to do the whole 6-7 thing. I don't get it. I'm learning as I go. Go figure. But anyway, here is Kamala Harris, and actually, I'm not even going to play the whole launch because it's the usual human Chernobyl word salad that she says a bunch of stuff. It's sound and something signifying nothing. It is a Seinfeld of campaigns, a Seinfeld about a campaign about nothing. But sure enough, here we go. Here is CNN's own analysis of Kamala's. Look, she didn't announce she's running for president, but this is her campaign website launch, which is weird. Just to say we're launching a website, but nonetheless, this is what CNN has to say about it. Cut number 4, go.
By the way, the handle they're using, you can see there, we're zooming in, at headquarters_67. 6-7, as the kids used to say. Well, used to say a lot of things. And I think they also used to say, that's probably cringe.
No, not used to. That's still a thing. And 6-7 is still a thing, by the way. CNN living in their usual bubble. But that's what we got here at this point, guys. If Kamala Harris, now, look, if you look at every poll, she is leading almost every poll for the Democratic nomination. I get it. It's like 2.5 years from now, 3 years from now. But if she gets the nomination somehow and ends up running with Tim Walz again, no, that's not going to happen. Who would she choose? AOC. I could see an all-female ticket, just, girl power kind of thing. Well, the problem is that this is a woman who ran for 107 days in 2024 and spent $1.7 billion with a B, ended up in a campaign deficit. They overspent what they raised in 107 days. Didn't win one swing state. Didn't win one anything as far as the popular vote, as far as winning back the Senate? No. How about taking back the House? No. Everything went wrong. Democrats resent her, but they won't attack her for now because they feel that she's going to implode on her own. And that's why this is happening. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with more and so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Chuck Schumer, you think about the most inept politicians of our lifetime. And Schumer is top 3, top 4. There's just something so, to use a word that my 10-year-old likes to use when I try to do the whole 6-7 thing. Cringe. Very cringe. Here is MSNBC, MS Now. They have him on. He expects a cream puff interview as far as nationwide voter ID. That, again, until I'm blue in the face, 83% of Americans support, including 71% of Democrats and an overwhelming amount of black voters, who Democrats say they are just out to protect because I guess they're not smart enough to get their own ID when asked to do it, which is beyond insulting to everybody in that community. Of course, if you want an ID, you want to board a plane, well, then I guess you need ID, right? And to do 1,000 other things in this world, you need ID. Including voting, one would think. Anyway, here's cut 1. Chuck Schumer with the worst answer in the history of all answers on a network that is begging him, please, we're trying to make you look good. Don't screw this up. And he screws it up. Cut number 1, go.
Jess, there's a new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right
you morons
all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
That's not an answer. And by the way, it's not 2.0, it's 2.0, you moron. Come to the 21st century. Anyway, here's Senator Blumenthal. I can't believe I have to call him a senator. Sorry, I thought he was just a congressman, but I just remembered that. Oh yeah, the guy who lied about fighting in Vietnam somehow represents Connecticut as a senator, and we'll get to Connecticut in just a moment. As far as hey, what's it like to live in Connecticut as far as taxes are concerned? Ain't good. Anyway, here's Blumenthal talking about how voter ID is a step towards you know what. Cut number 3, go.
A step toward totalitarian and authoritarian
there it is.
To suppress the vote. And it goes along with his seizing election machines and voting rolls, imposing citizenship tests, a series of actions that are designed to suppress and maybe stop the vote.
No, it doesn't. I mean, this makes no sense. I can't think of anybody out there. Actually, I can. Some folks who believe this stuff. The bottom line is, hey, you come to a voting location and somebody says, who are you? Here's my ID. Thank you. There's your, little booth and go in there and vote. How simple is that? And yet Democrats don't want that because they know that if that happens, then a lot of illegals in this country cannot vote. That fraud would be essentially eliminated. But yet this is where they're going on this, apparently. Anyway, I love this, by the way. This is my favorite clip ever on this show, at least on a Friday night. This is Scott Bessent, who this is a talent. I'm sorry for the fact that he knows numbers and the economy and everything in terms of Trump economic policy, where Trump trusts him 125% from what I'm told within the circles. In other words, Trump is never really trusted too many people around him because they think that he thinks they have their own agenda. But in Besson's case, he's like, this guy absolutely is on the same page as me. And better yet, he knows how to sell it to the media. And more importantly, knows how to push back and basically embarrass Democrats like Pocahontas, Liz Warren, who I'll just play cut 5 and let this speak for itself in terms of affordability and who destroyed affordability in this country. Here's Besson's answer, cut number 5. Go.
Senator, it may be a bit nuanced for you, but what President Trump is referring to is the media saying that the affordability crisis was generated by this administration when it was you and President Biden who destroyed the buying power of the American people. So there is an affordability crisis, and you were front and center in it.
So let me make sure that I understand. Donald Trump is not saying that affordability, what's happening to families right now, is a hoax?
He is saying that trying to lay the blame at this administration rather than the Biden-Warren economy is a hoax.
Okay.
You hear what he did there? That is so quick. It is not rehearsed. Didn't do that in a mirror beforehand. He was on Capitol Hill for hours and called it the Biden-Warren economy because Warren really, 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 really supported the Inflation Reduction Act, which did nothing to reduce inflation and, in fact, sent it above 9%. 9, a very common number within this particular show on this particular night on a Friday here in New Jersey. Anyway, the point is, here we are going back to Ronald Reagan, and this is a classic because this is everything in terms of inflation and in terms of what causes it. This is cut number 6. Go.
When Mr. Carter became president, inflation was 4.8%. It is now running at 12.7%. He has blamed the people of living too well. We don't have inflation because the people are living too well. We have inflation because the government is living too well.
Boom. Touchdown. Dipper. 99 yards. It's all about the government living too well. That's all he's saying. That they take the money and they support their donors and their friends and do a bunch of give outs and handouts to make sure they stay in power. Nothing more. That was 1980. Nothing has changed. And let's see, I'm doing the math here. 46 years, no question about it. Anyway, Donald Trump, meanwhile, we're going to go back into the archives, the classics. 1993. He's before Congress. And obviously, as a big businessman, they tried to embarrass him from the Democratic side. And this one congressman who, quite frankly, I don't know who it is. It really doesn't matter. He comes from the blue team, tries to attribute a quote to Donald Trump at the time. Trump pushes back to the point where the congressman is cowered in a corner saying, no mas, because he knows that he was lying and he got caught. This is tremendous, to use a Trump term. Cut number 9, go.
Whatever reason, you have a closed mind. I don't know why. Perhaps you could tell me.
No, Mr. Trump, I have a closed mind against evidence that is not substantiated.
Oh, well.
I have a closed mind against statements that are made about other people in general.
You're going to be very embarrassed in 2 years, sir.
You go on a radio show and you say, now some drunken Indians want to come down here and open a restaurant.
I didn't say that, sir. Quote it. I didn't say that. Who said that? Who said that? I'd like an apology right now because I didn't say that.
Imus opened the broadcast, so excuse me, Mr. Imus said that.
Okay, could I please have an apology?
You can have an apology.
Thank you, sir.
The guy tries to attribute a quote to Trump when it was the I man who said it while Trump was a guest. And Trump knew exactly where this was going. 3D chess, threw back in the guy's face. He's like, Mr. Imus said that. Well, yeah, that's what Imus did. But don't try to blame Trump for that. And actually, was it inaccurate? Maybe not. Probably not. Oh, man. Anyway, let's leave it here before we go to break. In the Don Lemon case, which I think is the greatest thing ever, because Lemon, again, stormed a church, gave the agitators / mob coffee and donuts beforehand, gave a big kiss in the cheek to the woman running this insurrection, you can call it, and at the same time told his cameras to shut down all audio and video while they organized this thing, not to give away the game plan beforehand since he was streaming it on YouTube. That's not what journalists do. That's what activists do. Liberal Antifa-like activists. And that's what Don Lemon is. And sure enough, a student today turned himself in and said that he helped Don Lemon in the storming of this church. This is game, set, match, as if we're already there, trust me. In a law case, this is like, the people versus O.J. Simpson, all right? This is common sense against Don Lemon, and this is checkmate. Cut number 13, go.
Jerome Richardson, a political science senior, turned himself in and is accused of conspiring to interfere with religious worship. Court records and social media posts show Richardson describing himself as assisting Don Lemon in the days leading up to the protest. Lemon, who claims he was just reporting, was arrested last week and released, but prosecutors say this new arrest undercuts that defense, suggesting planning and not just passive coverage.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. That's so friggin' awesome. Because it's true. Right? I mean, he was a co-conspirator in storming into a church, getting up in the face of the pastor, of parishioners, and saying, I'm just a journalist asking questions. No, you're not, dude. So hopefully this is something that, again, you have so many people in media defending Don Lemon. That's the hill you want to die on. Really. That guy? Nah, I don't think you want to do that. No question. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, I've seen this, actually. I was on the Trump plane during one rally in 2024. Feels like a long time ago. I almost went the 19 route. But this guy doesn't sleep. I mean, I asked Caroline Levitt when I was with her on the plane. I said, look, he's got to have coffee, right? I mean, he's got to have something, 5-hour energy, something to keep awake. 78 years old, right? He's constantly traveling. That has to have, I can't do that. I'm younger, we'll put it that way. And I do one trip to Arizona like I did this week. I'm exhausted. This guy, no. And he doesn't sleep on planes because, all right, we'll let the president fill in the blank here. This is cut number 2, go.
You're the guy I'm looking for. And then he said, sir, if you'd like, you can go and sleep. It's a 20-hour trip. If you'd like, you can go and sleep. We have quarters prepared for you. I said, no, I don't have to sleep. I've been on a plane sleeping for 20. I'm sleeping the plane. I don't sleep on planes. I don't like sleeping on planes, I like looking out the window, watching for missiles and enemies, actually.
Well, it's true, right? I mean, if you're constantly under threat, you're probably looking out the window like, everything okay out there? Is that all right? I'm the same way. I don't know about you. Now, granted, last night from Phoenix to Newark, late plane, I had a baby cry in front of me. I have video of this. I don't want to post it. I don't want to embarrass anybody. You can't see the dad. You don't know who the parents are. I don't mean to be mean. I have kids. I have a 10, 12-year-old, but I had young babies. You have to have formula on the plane, people, and they didn't have any formula. A bottle. The kid was hungry, and he screamed for 4.5 hours straight. And of course, as my producer knows here, I didn't bring my headphones. So I can't even hide from this, which I just wanted to sleep. I mean, it was a really long day. But to the point, though, even when there isn't a screaming kid, I can't sleep on planes. It's not comfortable. I can't sleep upright. It's just not a thing with me. There's too much going on. There's too many distractions. So I bought a pillow with me. It didn't matter. I'm like Trump. I just can't sleep on planes. But the point is that I'll get a nap once in a while, or maybe one day where I could go like 9 hours, and that's nice. And I'll catch up. I get the feeling that Trump has not slept more than 4 hours ever in his life. It's not like the guy is like, give me like a great athlete, Christian McCaffrey, where he's out there doing, wind sprints and like every day just in perfect shape. He's not. He eats fast food. He walks a lot, I guess, which is good because he's constantly doing things. But overall, this is a freak of nature in a good way, because as he told NBC News this week, he goes, I've never felt better all of my life than I do now. And it's true. That's not like a sycophantic WABC host saying Donald Trump is awesome. Base this guy on his actions, and his actions say that there is nothing wrong with this guy physically, mentally, and things are only getting better for Trump the Trump administration, and most importantly, for the United States of America. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. We wrap this puppy up on the Joe Concha Show in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, so just out tonight, we have a New York Times piece. I love this. Wes Moore on 2028, his party's challenges, and his favorite crab cake. The New York Times, Katie Gluck. All right, let's go through Katie's questions. Number one, what do you see as your party's most urgent challenge in 2026? Number two, what is the most significant way Trump has changed America? Number three, what is the single most important thing that the Democratic Party should stand for? So, yeah, these are pretty tough questions to this point. Then we get to the real meat, or I guess seafood, of the conversation. Question number four, what do you consider your hometown, and what is your single strongest restaurant recommendation there? Could you picture any Republican getting this sort of question from the New York Times? 3 in? Of course not. Anyway, let's see. Wes Moore. I went to the University of Maryland, so yeah, I know. Yeah, crab cake. I get it. It's kind of a thing in Maryland. Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does well, to quote Wedding Crashers. All right, let's see. Question number 5. What is your workout routine? Wes Moore, every morning at 6 a.m., I work out the Naval Academy and we'll work out with the midshipmen. What I do in the morning, it depends on what they're doing. So I show up in the morning and they're doing buddy drags, I'll do buddy drags. If they're swimming, I'll go swimming. If there's just hitting the weight room and do wind sprints, I'll do that. All right, so we're trying to make this guy out to be like the Mike Tyson meets Barack Obama. That's pretty cool. 6th question. I hope you say that after my next question. Name one person you want to see for president in 2028. So, he deflects and, doesn't really answer the question, right? He'll probably run, I would think. He's already doing the fundraising thing at this point. But again, this is how your typical interview with the mainstream press goes, as far as if you're a Democrat, especially a Democrat of color running for the presidency. Now, if Wes Moore runs, here's the thing. A black guy running in South Carolina can pose serious problems for a Gavin Newsom. Because remember, it's not Iowa that starts out the primary process for the Democratic Party. It is South Carolina, because that's the way Democrats rigged it for Joe Biden in 2020, because he had infinitely better black support than every other candidate that was on the ticket, including other black candidates, especially Pete Buttigieg, who black voters really, really don't like. He constantly polls at 0.0%. So before you say, oh, Pete Buttigieg could be the nominee, no, that just ain't going to happen. The point is that in South Carolina, if Wes Moore is in the equation, Gavin Newsom, who is as white as Wonder Bread, the Wayne Gretzky of politics, this guy ain't going to do well if he has to go against a legitimate black candidate like a Wes Moore, who is decent in interviews, certainly not Kamala Harris, the human Chernobyl, and perhaps he could do well, at least in the early states. I'll leave it here. One more little thing to go with. Here is CNN talking about how J.D. Vance is easily going to be the nominee in 2028. As I have said many times on this show, this is cut number 14. Go.
The Republican base loves J.D. Vance. What are we talking about here? Someone who really represents the Make America Great Again movement. This is somebody a year ago, his favorable rating among Republicans, 81%. Latest Marquette University Law School poll, look at this. 84%. 84%. So if anything, his favorable rating is somewhat up from where it was a year ago after a year of Trump. And of course, that matches what we see when it comes to MAGA, right? It matches what we see coming to MAGA, whereby it was 74 and now it's 78%. If anything, MAGA's grip on the GOP, and it seems like the next in line to be the next standard bearer of MAGA, both of them, their favorable ratings are actually up after a year of Donald Trump's second term.
And that's it, folks. This is J.D. Vance's nomination. It's already over. Sorry. There is no DeSantis, who I like a lot as far as being a president one day. There is no resurgence of Nikki Haley. There is no Republican candidate other than J.D. Vance with Marco Rubio as the 1-2. And as President Trump said, this could be an unstoppable ticket regardless of who Democrats run. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. Have a great weekend, everyone. It's going to be cold in almost all the country. Congrats. And we will be back Sunday here at 11 a.m. on WABC and throughout the country. Otherwise, 9 p.m. on Monday through Friday. Wow. I'm having a lot of fun. Thank you. I hope you did too. Until then, 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.